The GR11 is one of Europe's most beautiful long-distance hiking trails, and at the same time it's considered to be not very dangerous. And that is true, but there are still a few things you should keep in mind to make your hike as safe as possible and as enjoyable as possible. And that is exactly what I'm going to talk about in today's video, safety. So, hello and welcome back to another episode of my hiking guides for the GR11 in the Pyrenees. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, you can access the playlist here or via the link in the video's description. I also put in the link to my own adventure on the GR11 last summer if you want to watch this. The number one thing you should always keep in mind is weather. In the Pyrenees, it is common for thunderstorms to build up during the day and to hit hard during the afternoon. Oftentimes with lots of lightning, heavy rain and sometimes heavy winds. The problem isn't the storm itself, it is where you are when it hits. The most dangerous place is simply the wrong place at the wrong time. On the GR11, oftentimes you're hiking along ridges or you cross high mountain passes, which means you are very exposed during the day pretty often. Ideally, you don't want to be up there during the afternoon when the storms are likely. That is not always possible. Sometimes you have long stretches where it's going up and down and up and down, but with a bit of planning you can avoid it most of the time, and you should. What has worked really well for me is to camp at the foot of a pass, get up early in the morning like 7:30 and hike the pass first thing in the morning. It not only makes you avoid the afternoons, but also it makes you avoid the midday heat, which can be very, very brutal. And there's also less people. So all in all, this is the perfect time to do the high mountain passes. You should regularly check the weather forecast whenever you have phone reception. Whenever I had reception, I screenshotted like 2-3 days detailed forecasts for the weather. And surprisingly, the forecasts were pretty accurate for a mountain range. Of course, conditions can change quickly in the mountains, but when the thunderstorms were predicted, they usually happened. So that was pretty good for my planning of the stages. Also, you should always watch the sky. You can see the storms forming. The clouds are building up higher and higher. And when you notice that, you should start descending immediately, no matter where you are. Don't take unnecessary risks. Take a break, wait it out, or even go back, turn around if needed. Just try not to be on the top of the ridge, on the top of the pass during a thunderstorm. A storm in the mountains can quickly turn into a life-threatening situation, not only because of lightning strikes, but also because of rain. The rain makes the terrain extremely slippery, and it can be very dangerous to hike then, especially when you are on a descent or on a difficult mountain pass. I once waited out a storm in a hotel in Torla, it was a brutal storm with lots of heavy rain. And during that storm, a young man died just a few kilometers away from where I was. And he was hiking. He wasn't climbing or anything. He was on a normal hiking route that a couple hundred people take every single day. Very popular route. And no one knows exactly what happened, but it's very likely that he slipped during the storm and fell to his death a couple hundred meters. And this stuck with me the entire time. I was there when the search and rescue teams started their work, and a couple of days later I saw it on the internet and they only found his body a month after. So this was really, really shocking for me because he was basically doing the same thing that I was doing, and he just had bad luck being at the wrong area at the wrong time. And just keep in mind, weather can make the mountains extremely dangerous, life-threatening even. So please be reasonable, be careful when it comes to weather. Next thing I want to talk about is water. Water is something you should not underestimate on the GR11. There are many sections with very good water supplies, especially in the high Pyrenees, but there are also some very dry stretches, especially in the Mediterranean area. And at the beginning, the Basque Country itself is humid, but you don't cross a lot of surface water sources on the trail. So most of the water in the Basque Country you will fetch from wells in the towns, in the villages. So always keep track of where your next reliable water sources is. I say reliable because you have to keep in mind that streams that are marked on the map are often dry during the summer. I experienced that multiple times. That's why I always carried a little bit more water than I needed. It is extra weight, but it gives you a safety buffer if a planned source is dry. Also, pay attention to signs of dehydration, dizziness, headaches, dry lips, dark urine. I was dehydrated probably 2 times on the trail. And the best strategy is just to drink small amounts regularly, because when you're dehydrated, you lack focus, and it's very important for your safety. Now let's talk about the terrain and the risk of falling. Most of the GR11 is not technically difficult. You'll often hike on wide paths, well-marked trails, even on roads, dirt roads, even asphalt roads. But there are some sections that are extremely difficult and that require full attention. Loose rocks, scree fields, boulder fields, and very, very steep ascents and descents. Especially when it's wet, especially on the limestones, the ground can become extremely slippery. And it is a mountain trail after all. Some sections are secured with ropes, others aren't. And you need to use your hands quite a lot of times. But that being said, these technical parts make up maybe 1% of the trail, even less. But they can be quite challenging. When you're there, they are actually quite challenging. For experienced hikers, they're manageable. It's nothing you haven't come across before. And I would say that even for physically fit beginners without a fear of heights, they should be okay. But just keep in mind that there are parts of the trail that are technically difficult, where you are at the risk of falling to your death. But the real challenge is often not the terrain itself, but your mental state. Mistakes happen when you're tired, when you're unfocused, so don't tackle these difficult sections at the end of the day when you're exhausted, when you're tired. Plan ahead, check the guidebook. It is very clearly written when you are going to face a difficult path. And ask yourself honestly, am I fit enough? Am I awake enough to do this right now? If not, take a break, stay another night. Don't rush things. Don't do stupid things. Always know what you're capable of doing. Snow can also be an issue depending on the season. In early summer, some passes may still have snowfields, especially in June, May, of course. Conditions vary a lot from year to year. So the Pyrenees, like other mountains, have high and low snow years. So you can check online the snowpack. And if you are planning to start early, I would also definitely do that. Sometimes the passes are clear in June, snow-free. Sometimes even in July you have snow on the passes. But generally, July and August are the safest options regarding snow. From September onward, especially then from October, early snowfall is possible again. And I would say if you're experienced with snow, then no problem. If you're new to hiking on snow, if you never did that, plan to hike this trail in August, because that's the safest option. There were parts of the trail that I consider myself an experienced hiker, would not love if there was snow on the ground. Let's talk about heat and sun. It can get extremely hot on a GR11, especially in the eastern sections, but all over the trail it can get hotter than 30 degrees. There's often little to no shade, so you're exposed to the sun all day. This increases, of course, the risks of dehydration, heat stroke, sunburn, and sunstroke. And there are a couple of things that you need to do to avoid these. Use sunscreen and wear protective clothing. So I carried a 250 milliliter bottle of sunscreen with me and I used all of it. Also, I wore long clothes with UV protection. And I think this is absolutely essential. There are people who do this in shorts. I would never do that. But even more essential is a hat, because the sun shines on your head the whole day. You can also use a sun umbrella, of course, but I personally didn't use mine a lot because it was just too inconvenient. So I wore my hat all day. And another thing to recover from the heat, so to say, is try to take breaks in the shade when it's possible. It is not always possible because sometimes there simply is no shade. But if you come across a group of trees, just take a small break. Make sure to replenish your electrolytes, your water supply. You are going to sweat a lot on this trail. So you have to manage your electrolytes. You can, of course, use some supplements or salty snacks or chips, whatever. All of that works, but you should definitely do that because you will lose a lot of this stuff through your sweat. Another very important factor regarding safety is your mental condition. Most accidents happen when you're tired, when you're hungry, when you're dehydrated. So make sure that you sleep well and you eat and drink well. The sleep is, in my opinion, the most important thing because it just resets your brain. And there are parts of the trail I talked about earlier that need concentration. You know what you need for a good sleep outdoors. Do you need a warmer sleeping bag? Do you need an air mattress? Whatever. It is important that you sleep well. And then, of course, a well-fed body also supports a clear mind. So make sure you always eat and drink enough. And that's just a huge factor in staying safe. That is just the foundation for your mind to work properly. Another thing about your mental condition is know your limits. You always have to know what you're capable of doing. Don't let overconfidence get the better of you. It will ruin your hike and maybe even threaten your life. Every trail is different, so start slow. Check out what you can do, how far you can go, when you should start, when you should finish, whatever. You will find your rhythm and you will learn what you're capable of on this trail, and you should plan your stages according to what you've learned about yourself and your abilities. So now let's talk about phone reception and emergencies in general. Phone reception is better than expected, but of course there are still sections where you don't have reception, and those are the most remote and potentially dangerous areas, of course. So always have offline maps. This is very important. And a navigation app. GPS worked fine for me. I always got a GPS reception on the trail with my phone. Bring a power bank, of course, to be able to charge your phone, and let someone know where you are. So every time you have phone reception, just give someone a call or a quick text message like, hey, I'm here. You will hear again from me in 2 days when I'm there. That just makes a huge difference in a case of emergency, to be able to find you. You can, of course, also carry a personal locator beacon or something like a Garmin InReach, depending on your safety preferences. The emergency number, very important, even though you hopefully never need it, is 112. Finally, let's talk about animals. You will come across a lot of cows and horses on this trail, and they are usually harmless. Some are even very curious and want to be petted, but don't approach them if they have calves. That's just safe, calves and foals, because you never know what a protective mother sees in you when you approach their young. So, but all in all, you can say that these animals are used to humans on the GR11, and basically they are not aggressive. The real danger comes from shepherd dogs. They guard herds of sheep flocks and can be very, very aggressive. If you see a flock with such dogs, keep your distance, hike far around them, or wait until they move on. There's warning signs all over the place about these dogs, and I met people from Spain who had very bad experience with these dogs and they're really scared of them. This is especially important when you're hiking with the dog yourself. They will just kill it because they see a predator that is potentially dangerous for their flock, and they will kill it. They also attack humans, and you don't want that, of course. I myself never saw a flock with these dogs, so maybe I was lucky, or they usually keep distance from the trail, I don't know. But the signs were there all over the place, and you should definitely be aware of this potential danger. And then there's, of course, smaller animals that can annoy you. Mosquitoes. If you are attractive for mosquitoes, definitely bring some sort of repellent, because they are plenty of mosquitoes, especially in the evening. There are horse flies that those are really annoying. They bite, big wounds, bleeding wounds. They hurt. Happened to me about 10 times on the entire trail, so this is really something that happens. But yeah, it's just part of the game. And then there's a lot of flies because of all the shit from the animals, and well, they are super annoying. They terrorize you at some days, so a head net can be a good thing to bring on this trail. But most of the time it's okay. But they are there, and especially when you set up your tent, they will come to your tent. So I oftentimes ate inside of the tent. Ticks also exist in the region, but I personally never saw any, and I'm usually a tick magnet, so I guess they are not that plenty, like for example in Sweden or Finland. But still, check your body every night for ticks. It's very important. I recommend that in general to everyone who hikes in grasslands, in forests, and then you should be fine. As I said, I usually I'm very attractive to ticks, sadly, but I haven't seen any ticks on my body or my clothes. So yeah, that might sound like a lot of dangers, but don't let this discourage you. The GR11 with good preparation and reasonable thinking is very manageable and incredibly rewarding. So most dangerous situations can be avoided if you stay aware, if you make smart decisions. And other than that, I wish you a great time on this trail. Just do it. I hope I could help you with this video. I hope I could give you some valuable information. If you have any further questions, just let me know in the comments down below. And other than that, we see you in the next video. Happy trails and ciao.